All right, so here's the play, okay? I'm not going to get into the play that much. It's the Yankee concept. Yankee concept is usually a big post with a deep crosser. You usually want to run this versus any single high coverage. The Titans are playing cover 3 here, so he's going to bail to a third. This is the post safety. He's going to bail to a third. Okay, pretty simple. I'm not going to get so much into what Lawrence is doing here, though it's pretty important. This is an absolute seed, right? He drops this on a dime to Zay Flowers, right? Zay Flowers drops this ball. It's one of the worst drops of the season because this is an absolute seed. Let's just watch it from the end zone view and admire it. Look at him reset his feet because of the pressure and just rip this on half a hitch, right? Unbelievable throw. The throw is silly, but so the conversation was really about wrong read by Trevor Lawrence here. Oh my God, what a throw. And the conversation was, well, in the Yankee concept, you should throw it to this crosser right here, right? He's butt naked, wide open. And I actually disagree with that. I'm going to tell you why I disagree with that, but I'm more so going to tell you why from this play, to me, it shows elite process from Trevor Lawrence. And one of the conversations we have had throughout this offseason is this question of Brock Purdy's ceiling. And funnily enough, I have, one of the biggest advocates of Brock Purdy having an elite ceiling. And then I have Jesse, who is high on Brock Purdy, but has also been consistent that he's higher on Trey Lance's ceiling. And to me, let me first explain Lawrence's process, and then I'll get to Purdy. So why do I think this is good process, right? Just watch this safety right here, the post safety. He's going to take one false step where he takes a half turn and he peeks on the dig right there. Lawrence, right as he peeks, watch. Lawrence, he peeks, Lawrence hitch balls out deep, right? It's an unbelievable throw because he throws it over his head, but that half false step from the safety allows him to throw this big post to Zay Flowers.
Yep.
To me, this is great process because really in this concept, right, this crosser is going to be one. So progression-wise, typically, now I don't know, I'm not actually in their offense or meeting room, but typically if you look up the Yankee concept, pure progression, you're going to throw the crosser on one. This post is tagged as basically an alert. So you're peeking on the safety. The safety takes one false step downhill. He's peeking on the dig. You want to throw this post. So you want him to fear this because if you call this concept, a cross and a post and a crosser, that's called versus cover 3. I mean, go watch the Seahawks-Niners playoff game. How many times do the 49ers call some variation of a post and a crosser versus cover 3, right? So you see that so often. And right here, you see this call. The fact that he throws this ball, to me, it changes how you defend it because now that safety is always having to be honest about worrying about the post. Now, when we get to Brock Purdy, the reason I think this is relevant is we've talked a lot about.
Real quick, are you the play that comes to mind is where he threw it to Ayuk and Ayuk gave up on the play.
So that's one, right? That's one.
They run it a lot, but that's the one that comes to mind where he chose to throw it to the deep post versus the open crosser.
Same thing. Dig versus cover 3. Diggs drives down on Debo on the crosser. Debo is butt naked, wide open, right? If he hits Debo just like this, it's probably a touchdown to Christian Kirk. And Ayuk stops running. That's probably a touchdown too. That is. But I think in that particular play, it was pure progression where you read Ayuk 1, Debo 2. It's not tagged as an alert where, hey, you're going to peek at it, but really pure progression, you're going to go to Kirk 1. And I think that variation is different because rarely do we see the Niners quarterbacks throw a tagged alert. Now, the play I'm going to is actually versus the Bucs. Cover 0, he throws the tag alert on the go ball to Christian McCaffrey for, I think, like a 40-yard touchdown. He absolutely just rips it. It's a great decision, great throw. Really, the process of the decision, right? The throw from Lawrence was silly, but the process that goes into, well, he saw the safety drop and he didn't hesitate. Immediately was half a hitch, ball was out. That same process I have seen from Purdy before. I know this was a long point, but overall, when I realized what I was watching when I was watching Lawrence is not so much that, hey, I think Purdy is going to become elite, but I'm now seeing the avenue and the vision. Well, if Purdy can do that, where he's playing that fast, that far ahead, where he's not hesitating, which I do think he has the capability of doing that. Maybe there is an avenue for this 7th-round rookie quarterback or 7th-round pick quarterback to also become elite. Larry, I know you're just chomping at the bit to get started on this because you've been screaming this over and over again.
I mean, beyond Purdy, if you go back to the Lawrence play, I think, I mean, we're not getting a close up right there, but I mean, he can tell, and I'm sure he could feel the pressure coming from his face.
Right.
Otherwise, the crosser was the guy to go to. The crosser was the guy that you could have thrown open. There was no other top. There was no defender on top of the crosser. The crosser, you could have led him to the sideline. You had all kinds of room there. I think he knew that crosser, he was going to have to hold it for a half second longer. He didn't have a half second to play with, so he threw it into essentially almost like a man who was double covered in the middle of the field. Now, he put it in perfect position, so it just was an incompletion. But that, man, if that ball's not perfectly thrown, and it's a difficult throw because you're drifting to your left and you're trying to throw it over the shoulder of your receiver going down the middle with two defenders closing in, to me, it seemed like, just looking at that he made that throw because of the pressure, not because he chose that, not because of the safety. Because I think
disagree.
The open receiver was the crosser.
Because look at how he has to reset, right? If he's throwing that ball almost 64 yards in the air. Now, Trevor Lawrence's arm is silly, right? We're not here to get started on how good Trevor Lawrence is. Trevor Lawrence is a very, very excellent quarterback. But I think if you look at the way he resets his body when he gets moved off the launch point and where his eyes are, he has to actually reset his hips and almost do a half turn. He maybe moves his body like 45 degrees where he has to reshift his hips and align it to launch it, right? And that movement, he does it so quickly because he's a pretty special player in terms of being able to reset his feet and throw, and he can throw like that. But I think the crosser, where his body is positioned, is actually the easier throw. So to me, that decision was solely based on the safety. And it's more about the process for me, Larry, not to disagree with you and not to totally overtalk your Jesse, but it's that process that leads him to that, right? He sees the safety, and even though you know that the crosser's open, 99% of quarterbacks are capable of hitting the crosser. Very few quarterbacks have the capacity to process in that moment to see, hey, the safety's half a yard off his spot. Post safety took a false step forward instead of getting his spot to the post. I'm throwing this one. What happens next time, do you think, when they come up in 21 personnel condensed? Do you think that safety, if they're in 3 deep, that post safety is going to bite down on play action, or do you think he's running his ass straight to the far hash into the post next play? And so I think the fact that he did that and he didn't hesitate, to me, that's the process that's like beyond. Those are the little plays that are the small margin elite quarterbacks make those plays, right? These are the little plays that the average quarterbacks can't make because it's not obvious. It's not right in front of your eyes. It's not like, hey, this is what the play is supposed to do and you can do that. That's rudimentary. That's the average quarterbacks. That's Kirk Cousins, right? That's our average quarterbacks. The guys that take it a step above, sure, they have the silly physical ability to make that throw, but it's also there in just their process and how aggressive they are. And I will say, to Purdy's credit, we saw moments of such process last year. And perhaps I feel like, I don't know, there are some people maybe too bullish on his ceiling, and there's some people discounting his ceiling. Jesse, that was a lot. You just digested about 14 minutes of information. What do you think?
No, I mean, I think there's something to be said for it. You know, there's a play that comes to mind for me, and I'll just never forget this play. It was the Patriots versus the Colts. And it was an Asante Samuel interception on Peyton Manning, where they disguised cover 2 so well. He turned to run with the outside receiver, and then almost as if he had eyes in the back of his head, fell off that route and undercut a crossing route, I believe it was, underneath him for an interception. And it was like, how did you do that? Like, what was the play call there? And this is what happens in the NFL. You know, in college, you're going to get a lot of base coverages, especially when you're playing in smaller conferences. You're going to get up to the line of scrimmage. You're going to be able to read the coverage, and you basically know that's what it's going to be. In the NFL, it's not necessarily so straightforward. You're going to see one thing. A lot of times it is that, but there are other times where it's something completely different. Safeties roll post coverage. All of a sudden you thought you were going here, but you've got to make a split decision to go there, because if you go to that original read, you're throwing a pick. Cover 1 robber style, Jimmy Garoppolo comes to mind on a regular basis. So there's a lot that you have to be able to process in a short amount of time. And I think, you know, when we talk about elite traits from quarterbacks, I think that's one of the things that potentially is under talked about and might be something that Brock Purdy certainly can grow into. I don't know if he's there yet. You definitely see glimpses of it. And I think he can get there if he's that much of a student of the game. and really lives this and breathes it and eats it and does all those things, I think he can get there. And if he can, then a lot of those other ancillary things that we talk about definitely can be overridden a little bit if your processing is elite.
Krug?
I mean, there's no question. I think New Dawn Red October says Purdy's strength is his processing. Vish is right that that's how he makes up for the arm strength, being small, et cetera, just like Tom Brady. There's no question that Jimmy Garoppolo, since we just saw Jimmy Garoppolo, was a terrible late in the down thrower, and I think we all kind of understood it. If he went to his first read and it wasn't there, it was like, oh my God, what's coming next? It's like, because you knew that now he was off script and he was such an inconsistent decision maker.
Krug, I will
Purdy's
give him
strength
this
is his processing and his off schedule. No, I was just going to say, I think that's Purdy's strength. I think he actually gets better late in the down. I felt really good about his ability to find guys. And even that one that Ayuk dropped in the corner, was a beautiful dime, but he made 2 touchdown throws to Kittle on similar type plays where he kind of found him, on the backside, going along the back, the back line of the end zone, and he just bought extra time. So I kind of think, and it's funny, there was a number of Iowa State people this week when people were suggesting that Shanahan had developed him. They're like, hey, you know what? He was fully developed here. And I kind of agree with those people that Shanahan got a young quarterback that was very, very developed. I'm not saying that he hasn't had a hand in developing him since, but let's not pretend that Brock's here because of, Brian Greasy and Kyle Shanahan. They happened to draft the right guy. I think that is probably their true genius, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
Jesse,
I was just going to say, I definitely agree with that. I think that Purdy pretty much was who he was. I mean, there's definitely some things he's going to learn for sure. And I think when you have somebody who is as developed as Purdy is, and you throw him into this offense, you're going to see what you saw last year, which is an explosion of really good play, because this offense provides quarterbacks exactly that. The thing I'm going to push back on a little bit is I do think one of his strengths is processing. I don't think Purdy's an elite processor yet. I think, the play that you talked about where he hit Kittle on the back corner of the end zone, he really missed his first read, which was a wide open out to Jennings, I believe. Right. And so you do see those things show up on film where he makes the play, but really the processing was off. And so that's why the play was made. I'm not doubting he can get there. I believe he has the capability to do so. And if he does, it's going to override a lot of things. But when I look at him, I don't say, oh, Purdy's an elite processor at this point in his career. And I wouldn't expect him to be as a rookie either.
I do, because I'm not comparing him to fully developed, third year, fourth year, fifth year quarterbacks. I'm comparing him to the other rookies and how they processed. And that's to me where Brock is really special, is that we compared Brock to Jimmy. Jimmy was having the best year of his career and had finally realized to, throw away the ball and throw it into the ground. And this was Jimmy at his apex. Jimmy's already prepared to be in 3 Super Bowls, 1 as a starter, 2 as a backup. Brock Purdy hadn't played in 3 months. And, he played in August, didn't play in September, October, or November, got thrown into the fire in December as a rookie in a complex offense, an offense where Matt Ryan in year 2 became the MVP of the league. So I just think that you got to compare him processing wise. I hear what you're saying though, Jesse. He was far from an elite processor, but that's just in the grand scheme of quarterback play. If you really cut it down to just rookie quarterback play,
that's
compare
totally
him to Fields and compare him to Lawrence and Zach Wilson and Jameis Winston as a rookie and Mariota, I think then you would say, yeah, he's probably closer to elite.
That's totally fair.
I think there's a lot of layers to what you guys said. First, I wanted to address one thing you said, Krug, and I interjected you there, so apologies. But what I did want to mention with Jimmy, And I think this point about Jimmy is essential to the Purdy conversation because we don't have an example with Purdy without the other. Is that Jimmy's process was very different this year once Christian McCaffrey came, right? Like, this was the best I've ever seen Jimmy in terms of being able to evaluate the front side, get to the back side, find your check down. And there's a timeliness, there's a rhythm to it, there's a process to it. And he was able to get to the backside and drop the ball down, right? There were less moments of panicky Jimmy in the pocket. Holy crap. The in cut that I wanted to throw on my first read just got robbed off. Should I just chuck it straight into that defender that I know is there and create a three-way head-on collision and hope something happens? Maybe I will. Like, we saw a lot less of that outside of the Denver game, right? I will give this to Jimmy's credit, too. While he does struggle in chaos, where Brock Purdy actually seems to succeed, and I think there's a reason for that as well, he did improve in how he handled chaos last year, right? There's a great play right before he gets hurt in the Miami game. One of the best plays I've seen Jimmy Garoppolo make. Gets outside of the pocket, similar zero blitz. They didn't have it set up. He's got Ray McLeod one-on-one on a wheel route. He gets outside of the pocket, rolls to his right, and drops it in the bucket, right? Does anybody remember this play?
Yeah, I do.
Messi's face. Okay, there we go. A little bit of nod. So, nice play. Play we're not accustomed to seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo. And so, he did improve in that criteria. And so when it comes to, like, well, in terms of, well, how many right decisions does the quarterback make in that offense and stuff like that, it's hard for me to evaluate Purdy that way, especially when I saw such a difference in how Jimmy was able to get through his reads and get to the backside because they had this backside check down always available. Because, I mean, George Kittle talked about in a recent interview, a lot of their concepts, they just have McCaffrey run a backside isolation route on the back half of it, and they just delay it. And basically the timing opens up where if you don't read the front side concept and you don't like it, just drop it off backside because he wins one-on-one every time. Every time he wins. He's an incredible football player. And so it's tough to evaluate his process because of that.